Hey guys, so today I want to talk about Stephanie Mirro's book, Wings of Life. It is the fifth book in her Last Phoenix series, and it is on fire. Okay, last we left off, Veronica was now a queen, a Tsarina, um, in her own world. Do not ask me to pronounce this world. I'm not even going to try. I will butcher it so badly. Um, but it's the Phoenix realm, is basically what it is. She's a queen in the Phoenix realm. And she needs to get back to Earth. She needs to get back to our realm because she needs to get to Thane. It turns out that Thane is, her flame has chosen Thane as her soulmate, even though he's a Reaper, which means that he's technically dead. But yeah, so she has to get back to the realm, the human realm, to confess to him her feelings, regardless of the fact of whether he's ascended to become an angel or not. At this point, she could care less if he's become an angel. She wants him to know how she feels anyways. And so on that note, she actually comes back she brings Ivan, who's a realm walker, and Lena, who is her guard, leaves Peter in charge. Honestly, if she had her way, Peter would be ruling, and she wouldn't have to go back, but she has responsibilities, and it's a matriarchy, her society, so she kind of has to find a way around that. So she comes back, and she runs into Kit and Angela as they are on their way to Thane's ceremony because his ascension is that day. And so, of course, she flies to the DEA and she goes running in and goes up to the top. And unfortunately, the ceremony has already started. And the problem with this, what she's going to run into, what they end up having to deal with, is that because the ceremony has already started, it can't be stopped. So in about a month, Thane has about a month. Either he has to ascend or he dies. And it's a true death. Like, it's a permanent death. And this really is frustrating because she finally, was able to come to grips with her feelings and have a chance to confess it to him. And one more thing, right? Okay, so there's a rumor, and it's something that Ivan kind of, mentions. There's a stone. It's a dragon stone. It was gifted to one of her ancestors by the dragons, and it is rumored to be able to cure anything, even death. So they need to find the stone. Unfortunately, the stone disappeared, and no one knows where it went. The last known place of the stone was in Italy. So they go to Italy. Here's the problem. Kit doesn't tell Veronica that she's banned from Italy. Come to find out, Kit had been a part of a massacre in Italy during, after World War II. They massacred a lot of humans. The vampires in Italy got very upset because that's, their food source, and you don't just massacre our food source without our approval. And Kit was one of the witches that was banned from Italy upon pain of death if she came back. Kit doesn't tell Veronica this, just goes with her, right? Oh, you need me. The contact is my contact. She's not going to trust anybody but me. I have to be there. Okay. So they go to this contact, and this contact and Lena are making eyes at each other. And she tells them that there was this warlock who had the stone, and told them where to find him. So they go to this little village outside of Rome. An old lady answers the door. Oh no, he's dead, and tells them where where he's buried at. So they figure, okay, well, it probably looks just like a normal rock to other people, so he probably got buried with it. So they go to the cemetery. It's now nightfall. They go to the cemetery, dig him up. It's not there. It's not in his little pouch of possessions. While they're digging him up, vampires pop up. Like really young vampires, and then, this really hot older vampire who knocks out Lena and takes them captive and takes them back to the king and queen in Italy, which of course who then declare that Kit is violating their banishment and she's taken into custody, and Veronica wants her freedom. Well, there's only one way to get her freedom, and there is something that Kit's mother has that the vampires want. So Veronica has to go to Kit's mom, who Kit does not talk to, does not have anything to do with. She's a very powerful witch. And when Veronica tells her what the vampires want from her, she goes, "Oh, yeah, I can give that to you on one condition." Again. So Veronica's like, "Okay, what's this condition?" She goes, "Kit has to come back and see me by the next full moon." Okay, I'm sure Kit will be okay with that. That shouldn't be a problem. Takes the box, goes back to the vampires. Of course, the vampires open it. It's a heart, a beating heart. So apparently, what happens to vampires eventually, they get so old that they decide that they don't want to live in a body anymore, and they can be just beating hearts, which is super kind of weird, but the queen seems really super happy to have it. So, okay, cool. They release Kit to her, tell her, again, Kit is banished forever. She comes back, she's gonna die, kind of thing, and they go back to the States. Of course, at this point, it's discovered that all of the transporting is really speeding up Thane's dying process, and he's coughing up blood and not feeling good. And so Jessa, her guardian angel, Veronica's guardian angel, shows up and promises to take care of him while they go back to Italy, because in the middle of all this deal making, Veronica made another deal. The vampires do have the Dragonstone, and the only way that Veronica's been able to get her hands on it is to compete in the vampire trials, which are usually exclusively only vampires. Is how they up in rank from like guard to master, etc. And Veronica gets them to agree to let her compete because the prize is the stone. So, okay, all right, Veronica's going to compete in the vampire trials. Great. Ivan and Lena are going to go with her, and Kit decides to take on Angela's visage as like a glamour, so that she can go as well. While also revealing to Veronica that her and Angela bound her powers, and the only person who can unbind her powers is Angela. And it's why meeting with her mother would be bad, because she says something about her mother being able to control her, which I figure has something to do with the fact that now that Kit doesn't have her full powers, her mother will be able to force her to do things, because her mother does have her full powers and happens to be a very strong witch. I'm just assuming that's what's going. So that's why. But that kind of gets pushed to the side, because getting the Dragonstone is, more important. They have to prioritize. So they get to Italy. There's 4 parts of the trial. Colin acts really fishy, actually. I just want to point this out here. Colin is in Adam's office and finds out that Veronica's going to compete in the trials, and basically tries to forbid her from doing it, and tries to grab her, and he's just being really pushy and like really, I'm getting this super bad vibe from this guy, and I really liked him. Like when he was first introduced, I was like, oh, he's really respectful, he's really nice, and now he's handsy and he's pushy, and it's really weird, like why he thinks that he can control her. But Adam goes with her to the vampire trials in Italy, because as a kind of a show of support from the angels kind of thing, even though the vampires claim that the angels don't have any authority in Italy because that's their territory. So she starts the trials. There's 4. The first trial is basically like a melee free-for-all where everybody's fighting, and she makes it through that one, because fighting is kind of Veronica's thing. They're not allowed to use magic. So she can't use magic, but she can use shifting, which is not considered magic. And so she shifts her hands into claws, which kind of surprises everybody because they didn't know that she could do that. She also makes it through the second trial. The third trial, she manages to get through And each trial is getting harder, and then near towards the end, the disguise on Kit starts to fade. And so now they're like, okay, well, we really have to get through this. Well, then a vampire shows up. Amelia. We saw Amelia back when that master vampire was going after Veronica, and Veronica went to Amelia for help from the Miami vampires and caught her in the middle of sex. And it turns out that Amelia has the ability to make people orgasm without even touching them. And she manages to do that to Veronica, like literally makes her moan in front of all of the vampires. It's actually quite disturbing. And Veronica, it embarrasses Veronica. Then it comes out, right before the final trial, it comes out that Amelia was behind everything. She was behind Galinda. Galinda was a Reaper. A rogue Reaper was the one who had gone after Veronica's parents and taken Veronica's throne. And she was like in agreement with Amelia. And the only reason that she didn't come back and didn't do, everything Amelia wanted her to do was because once she had moved realms, she could no longer feel the commanding that Amelia had over her. And so Amelia, part of the contract that Veronica had signed was if she lost the trials, she would have to become a vampire and basically be a servant, and promised to Amelia, like Amelia wanted her as hers. And Veronica didn't want to be someone's collection, didn't want to be a part of a collection. So, middle of the final trial, chaos breaks loose. People start dying. Amelia basically says that she's going to take over. Like, she is going to become the new queen. She's in charge. The king loses his head, and her and Veronica end up in a final epic battle, which is pretty cool because for Veronica, this is the culmination of the last 5 books. This is the woman who ultimately ordered the death of her brother and who got her parents kicked out of, had her parents running from their own kingdom. Like, this is the woman who made her life the way it was. And so she went at her full force. It was just epic. I mean, you want to talk about great writing, action scene writing? Stephanie's got it, guys, because this is amazing. The way that these two people just went at each other and the moves that they used. And, of course, Veronica wins. She turns that little hot tart person girl into ash. Is awesome. So then, of course, the whole group goes running to the vault where the Dragonstone is supposed to be, and it's not there. It's not in the room that they thought it was going to be. So they start searching around for it. They find it. The queen has it, and she was trying to use it to bring back the heart. Like, whoever was in the heart, or like whoever the heart belonged to, she's trying to bring them back to life. And she said, "You can have it. It doesn't work." Like, just completely, well, not having time to fuss or fight about it, they grab her, they go back to the DA, because Thane is now like in his death throes. All right, death throes. I mean, the man is dying. Okay, she gets into the room and everyone's sure he's dead. He's dead. Like, there's nothing they can do. They try to pull her away. She slams that stone on his chest. She wants it to work. Nothing's happening. Everyone is sure that he's dead, and she cries, and her tears fall onto him, onto the stone, and oh, guess what? Thane's back. The stone literally, like, dissolves into his chest, and he's back, and he's alive. And he's not just back and alive, he's human. Like, well, not human. He's a supernatural being, because Reapers are all supernatural beings, but he's not dead. Like, he's not like a Reaper, right? Cue awesome sex scene. There are 2 sex scenes in this book. Chapter 6, there's one, and then chapter 26, I think it was. A long time coming. It's been 5 books of this poor girl getting teased, and needing some relief, and she finally got it. Hallelujah. Woo woo. But it's funny because apparently there's like extra stuff, and like the room looks like an explosion when they're done, which is, I mean, that just means it's great, right? So they go walking around together. They're walking down the beach together, finally get to be together. And she finally asks him what kind of supernatural he was. And he goes, oh, I was a realm walker. Now she's got her own personal realm walker who can just bounce her back and forth between her kingdom. It's perfect, right? You think things are really going like the way they're supposed to go? Oh, but there's an epilogue. The dragons have been missing for years, pretty much ever since her parents left their realm, right? Well, somebody wakes the dragons up. Somebody wakes the dragons up and informs the dragons that the new Serena had used the Dragonstone, and it angers the dragons because for whatever reason she's supposed to be his mate. Not sure how that's supposed to work. No one apparently knows about this deal that was made between the dragons and the phoenixes. And so honestly, I think it'll be interesting to find out in book 6 how this comes about. I suspect, personally, I think it was Colin who went and woke the dragons up. I think that there's a little bit of jealousy going on there, maybe a little bit of if I can't have her, Thane can't have her kind of idea. And so I think that he's kind of decided that he's just going to make as many problems for Veronica as possible. I found the vampire culture and the trials to be very interesting. Basically, the trials start in tiers. So the first tier are people who want to become vampires, and that's what they're competing for, is for a spot. The next tier are like guards who want to move up to masters, and basically the vampires have told Veronica that if she, loses and becomes a vampire, they'll make her a master. But no one's even sure if phoenixes can be vampires. Like, they're just not sure about that. There's a lot of orgies. Vampires are very much into that. So they did walk in on an orgy. Very awkward situation. I enjoyed it. It was interesting to find out that who was actually behind everything that had been happening to Veronica for the last several years. And it was interesting to finally see her get that closure. But I'm excited to see what happens in book 6, because now there's going to be dragons, and where there's dragons, there's treasure, and where there's treasure, there's mystery. And I just think that it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. And I suspect that there's going to be some fighting over Veronica's hand. Thane's probably going to have to prove himself. I'm not sure, but I could see that happening. It'll be interesting to see how the dragons navigate that. But yeah, epic book. So happy with it. Cannot wait to read the 6th one. And the 7th book actually comes out in this week. So happy reading.